Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please exercise caution while watching. There was a strange energy in the courtroom. Not loud, but heavy, like the room itself was holding its breath. Reporters sat with pens at the ready. Spectators leaned forward in their seats. The lawyers barely moved, focused and frozen. The Diddy trial had been wild from the start, with explosive accusations flying left and right. But today felt different. Today, someone powerful was about to take center stage. With a loud bang from the gavel, the courtroom held its breath. Then came the name that no one expected, Willard Carroll Smith II, better known as Will Smith. The Hollywood icon, the Fresh Prince, the man who turned blockbuster movies and chart-topping hits into a global empire, walked to the witness stand. His usual charisma was subdued, replaced by a somber determination that silenced the crowd. Will Smith was not here to charm or entertain. He was here to tell a story that would shake the foundations of the music and entertainment world. A story about Diddy's after-parties, a world hidden behind velvet ropes, and secrets buried under fame. Will Smith and Diddy were not strangers. For years, Will Smith and Diddy had been giants in their fields, their paths crossing at award shows, charity events, and star-studded bashes. But today, Will was not just a colleague or a friend. He was a witness, ready to pull back the curtain on a side of Diddy's empire that few dared to talk about. His testimony was not just about one night or one party. It was about a system, a culture, a machine that thrived in the shadows of celebrity. This is the story of what Will Smith saw, what he carried, and why he is speaking out now. Before we continue, hit that like button to support our video. Will Smith's journey to the top started in the streets of West Philadelphia, where he rose from a scrappy rapper to a global superstar. By the time he met Diddy in the early 90s, Will was already a household name thanks to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and hits like Summertime. Diddy, then emerging as Puff Daddy, was building Bad Boy Records into a hip-hop powerhouse. The two men clicked instantly, bonded by their hustle and their knack for turning dreams into reality. "We were young, hungry, and unstoppable," Will told the court, his voice steady but tinged with nostalgia. Diddy had this energy, like he could make anything happen. I respected that. Their friendship grew over the years, with Will and Diddy sharing stages, studios, and late-night conversations about fame and power. But it was the after-parties, the exclusive, invite-only events that left a mark on Will. The first one I went to was in '94, after an awards show in New York, Will recalled. It was at this penthouse, all glass and chrome, with views of the city that made you feel like you owned it. I thought it was just a celebration, you know? Music, drinks, good vibes. But it was not that simple. The courtroom leaned in as Will described stepping into Diddy's world. The penthouse was a spectacle, chandeliers dripping with crystals, waiters in tailored suits, and a guest list that read, like a who's who of the 90s elite. Rappers, actors, models, and executives mingled with faces Will did not recognize. People who moved with a quiet intensity, like they were there for more than just a good time. "I noticed things right away," Will said. "There were rooms off to the side, guarded by security. People would disappear into them and come out looking different, nervous, distant. I did not know what was going on, but at some point, it didn't feel like a party." Will testified that Diddy took him under his wing, inviting him to more of these exclusive events. There were yacht parties in Miami, mansion blowouts in the Hamptons, and private club nights in Los Angeles. Each one was more extravagant than the last, but they all shared a strange vibe. Diddy called them the real party, Will said. He would say, "This is where the magic happens, Will. This is where deals are made." I thought he meant music deals, movie deals. But it was bigger than that. It was darker. Will's voice grew quieter as he described a night in 1996 at a sprawling estate in Beverly Hills. The party was packed, hundreds of people, music pounding, champagne flowing. But Will noticed something unsettling. There were these groups of people, young men and women, who did not seem like they belonged, he said. They were not celebrities or industry folks. They looked like they were there to perform, not to party. Diddy would point to someone and say, "They are with me." I didn't know what that meant, but it gave me chills. The jury sat frozen as Will recounted a moment that changed everything. He was at a Miami party in 1998, hosted at Diddy's Star Island mansion. The night started like any other, glamorous, chaotic, electric. But as the hours passed, Will wandered into a quieter part of the house, looking for a bathroom. I heard voices, he said, not laughing or partying, crying. I followed the sound to a locked door. I knocked and a woman's voice whispered, "Go away." I did not know what to do, so I left. But that sound stayed with me. Will said he confronted Diddy about it the next day. I asked him what was going on, who those people were, Will testified. He just smiled and said, "Will, you are a star. Don't worry about the shadows." That was when I knew something wasn't right. Will's testimony was building to something bigger, something that would make the courtroom draw sharp breaths. But what had he seen? And why had he stayed silent for so long? The trial took a dramatic turn as Will Smith revealed a deeper layer to Diddy's after-parties. He described them as carefully orchestrated events, with layers of security and strict rules. "You didn't bring your phone inside," Will said. "They would check you at the door, take your devices, and give you a number to pick them up later." Diddy said it was for privacy, but it felt like control. Guests were handed wristbands, different colors for different levels of access. "I got a gold one," Will said. "That meant I could go anywhere. But I saw people with red wristbands who were not allowed past certain doors. I did not know what those doors hid, but I had a bad feeling." Will testified about a 2001 party in Las Vegas, held in a private suite at the top of a casino. The room was a maze of velvet curtains and dim lighting, with music so loud it drowned out conversation. "I saw Diddy hand a guy a key card," Will said. "The guy looked nervous, like he didn't want it. Diddy leaned in and whispered something, and the guy nodded, but his eyes were empty. Later, I saw him go through a door with two other people. They did not come back out while I was there." Will then describe something he called the inner circle, a group of trusted associates who seemed to run the show. They were not just security or assistants, Will said. They were enforcers. They made sure everyone followed the rules. If someone got too curious, they would be escorted out, and you would never see them at another party. Will admitted he did not initially know the full scope of what happened behind those locked doors, but he saw enough to feel uneasy. "I would hear whispers," he said, "people talking about special guests or private shows. It was not about music or dancing, it was something else." Will's testimony grew more intense as he revealed a moment that haunted him. In 2003, at a New York party, he stumbled across a room where a young woman was sitting alone, her face streaked with tears. "She looked at me like I was her lifeline," Will said, his voice cracking. "She said, 'Please don't tell him I talked to you.' I did not know who him was, but I knew it was serious. I told her I would keep her secret, and I walked away. I have regretted that ever since." Will Smith's testimony then took a darker turn as he leaned into the microphone, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of what he was about to reveal. The courtroom fell into a silence so deep you could hear the creak of chairs. What he had seen at Diddy's after-parties was not just unsettling, it was a glimpse into a world that thrived in the shadows, a world that made the glitz of Hollywood and hip-hop feel like a mask. That night in 2003 in New York was not the only time I saw something wrong, Will said, his eyes scanning the jury. It was just the first time I could not ignore it. He described how the parties, especially after 2003, grew more intense, more secretive. They were not just about music or networking anymore, Will testified. They were performances, not the kind you see on a stage, the kind that makes your stomach turn. Will painted a clear picture of a 2004 party at a private mansion in Miami's Coconut Grove. The estate was a fortress, high walls, tinted windows, and security at every corner. Inside, the vibe was electric but creepy, like walking into a scene you were not meant to understand. The main room was loud, packed with people dancing, laughing, drinking, Will said. But there were other rooms, hidden behind heavy curtains or locked doors. That's where the real show was. Will's voice dropped as he described wandering into one of those rooms by mistake. "I thought I was looking for a quiet spot to clear my head," he said. "Instead, I walked into something I could not unsee." He paused, rubbing his hands together, the memory visibly weighing on him. It was an orgy, not the wild, carefree kind you hear about in rumors. This was organized. People were moving like they had been told what to do, like they were following a script. There were men and women, some I recognized from music videos or red carpets, others I had never seen before. They were not all there by choice. You could see it in their eyes. The jury leaned forward as Will revealed the most disturbing detail. There were cameras, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Not phone cameras or paparazzi lenses, professional cameras, set up on tripods, red lights blinking. Someone was recording everything. I saw a guy in a corner, adjusting the angles like he was directing a movie. I did not know who he was, but he was not a guest. He was working. Will said he froze, unsure whether to leave or confront someone. I felt like I had walked into a trap, he admitted. I backed out of the room before anyone noticed me, but my heart was pounding. I knew I had seen something I was not supposed to. Will then described another incident, this one at a 2005 party in Los Angeles, held in a private club with no name, just a secret entrance off an alley. Diddy called it the inner sanctum, Will said. You needed a special pass to get in, a black card with no writing on it. I got one because I was Will Smith, but I saw others begging to get past the door. Inside, the scene was even more unsettling. It was like a theater, Will said. There was a stage, dim lights, and a crowd watching. On that stage, people were performing sexual acts, choreographed, timed to the music. It was not a party anymore. It was a show, and the audience was not just watching, they were participating in something bigger. Will testified that he saw Diddy in the crowd, not as a guest, but as the orchestrator. He was giving directions, Will said, pointing to people, telling them where to go, what to do. He would nod to the camera guy, like they were capturing something specific. I heard him say, "Make sure you get her face." I did not know who her was, but it made my skin crawl. Will said he left the room quickly, but not before noticing a stack of folders on a table near the door. They looked like contracts, he said. I did not read them, but I saw names, signatures, and words like confidentiality and compliance. It was not about music or movies. It was about control. The prosecutor asked Will if he knew what the recordings were for. Will shook his head, his face tight with frustration. I did not know then, and I still don't know for sure, he said. But I heard things. Rumors that Diddy kept tapes, used them to keep people in line. If you stepped out of his circle, those tapes could ruin you. I did not see the proof, but I saw enough to believe it. The courtroom was silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Will described another creepy moment. This one at a 2006 party in the Hamptons. The mansion was packed, the air thick with smoke and perfume. Will said he was trying to leave early when he overheard a conversation that stopped him cold. Two guys were talking, low near the bar, he said. One of them said, "Diddy's got them all on lock. Those tapes are his insurance." The other guy laughed and said, "Nobody is dumb enough to talk." I did not know if they meant me, but I felt like they did. Will said he left the party immediately, his mind racing. I started wondering how many people were trapped, he said. How many careers, lives were hanging on those tapes. The most haunting moment came when Will spoke about a young man he saw at that same 2006 party. He could not have been older than 20, Will said. He was in a corner, surrounded by older guys in suits. He looked terrified, like a deer caught in headlights. Diddy walked over, put a hand on his shoulder and said, "You're gonna be a star." But the kid did not look happy. He looked like he was signing his life away. Will said he wanted to intervene but felt powerless. I was Will Smith, but in that room I was just another guest, he said. I did not know how deep it went, who was involved. I just knew it was wrong. The prosecutor pressed Will on why he did not act. Will's answer was raw and honest. I was scared, he admitted. I was a star, yeah, but Diddy was a king. He had connections everywhere. Labels, clubs, even law enforcement. I did not know who to trust, and I had my own career, my family, my kids to think about. The courtroom was silent, struggling with the weight of a man like Will Smith admitting fear. But there was more to come, something that would push the trial into uncharted territory. What he revealed next changed everything. He revealed a document that left the courtroom shocked. It was a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, one he had been asked to sign before a 2007 party at a private island in the Caribbean. It was not a music contract, Will said, holding up the faded paper. It was a promise to stay silent. It said I could not talk about anything I saw or heard, not to the press, not to my friends, not even to my wife. The NDA, stamped with Bad Boy's logo, listed penalties for breaking it, lawsuits, financial ruin, even unclear references to personal consequences. Will said he refused to sign it. I told Diddy, "I'm not signing my soul away," he testified. He laughed like it was a joke, but his eyes were not laughing. He said, "You will wish you had." I did not go to that party, and after that I started getting fewer invites. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as Will submitted the NDA as evidence. The document was a scary glimpse into Diddy's control, a legal cage designed to keep secrets locked away. Will described how the parties changed over the years, growing darker and more secretive. By the late 2000s, they were less about celebration and more about power. Diddy would talk about loyalty tests, Will said. He would say, "If you are not with me, you are against me." I saw people, young artists, models, even executives, bend to his will. They would do anything to stay in his circle. Will admitted that he later started distancing himself, sticking to public events and avoiding the private ones. I did not want to know what was behind those doors, he said, but I could not unsee what I had already seen. One of the most explosive moments came when Will revealed a conversation with Diddy in 2010 after a Grammy after-party. I pulled him aside and said, "Man, what are you doing?" Will recounted. I told him the parties, the secrets. It was not right. He got real quiet, then said, "Will, you don't get it. This is bigger than you and me. This is the game." I asked what he meant, but he just walked away. Will's voice trembled as he added, "That was when I realized I could not be part of it anymore." The courtroom was on edge, waiting for what came next. Will Smith's testimony was not just about the parties, it was about the cost of silence. He described how the weight of what he had seen affected him. "I would go home to Jada and the kids, and I would feel like I was carrying a secret I could not share," he said. "It ate at me. I would look at my daughter, Willow, and think about those young women I saw at the parties. I wondered what their fathers would feel if they knew." Will revealed he tried to help behind the scenes. In 2012, he quietly reached out to a young artist he had seen at one of Diddy's events, a singer who seemed out of place. "I gave her my manager's number and told her to call if she needed to get out," Will said. "She called once, crying, saying she was scared. I told her to leave, to go home. I never heard from her again." The courtroom was silent, the tragedy of that moment sinking in. Will also spoke about the industry's code of silence. "It was not just Diddy," he said. "There were others, executives, promoters, even artists, who knew things but stayed quiet. Speaking out meant losing your career, your connections, everything. I saw people get blackballed for less." He admitted he struggled with his own silence. "I told myself I was protecting my family," he said, "but deep down, I knew I was protecting myself too." The courtroom was left murmuring when Will revealed a surprising incident from 2015. He was at a Los Angeles club when he received an anonymous text. "Keep your mouth shut, Fresh Prince." Attached was a photo of Will at one of Diddy's parties, taken from an angle he did not recognize. "I didn't know who sent it," Will said, "but it scared me. I started looking over my shoulder, wondering who was watching." He began hiring extra security and limiting his appearances at industry events. Will's testimony reached its peak when he spoke about a 2018 encounter with Diddy at a charity gala. "I had not seen him in years," Will said. "He pulled me aside and said, 'You are still my brother, right?' I knew what he meant. He was asking if I would stay silent. I looked him in the eye and said, 'I am nobody's prisoner.' He did not say anything else, just walked away." That moment, Will said, was when he decided he could not stay quiet forever. But the turning point came in 2020 during a late-night call with a former Bad Boy employee. "He was broken," Will said. "He told me he had seen things at those parties that haunted him. People being pressured, manipulated, used. He said, "Will, you are one of the few who can say something and be heard." That call changed me. Will said he spent years wrestling with the decision to speak, consulting with Jada, his spiritual advisors, and even a therapist to process the guilt. As Will Smith's testimony neared its end, he turned to the jury with a fire in his eyes. "I am not here to tear Diddy down," he said. "I am here to tell the truth. Those parties were not just parties. They were a system, a way to control people, to make them feel like they had no choice. I saw young people, full of dreams, walk into that world and come out broken. I can't let that happen anymore." Will revealed he had been working with advocacy groups since 2021, helping young artists navigate the industry safely. "I want to be the guide I didn't have," he said. "I want kids to know they don't have to trade their soul for a shot at fame." He hinted that others might come forward as the trial continues. "I am not the only one who saw things," he said. "There are people out there, watching this, deciding if they are ready to speak. I hope they find the courage." In a heart-wrenching moment, Will spoke about his children. "I think about Jaden, Willow, Trey," he said, his voice breaking. "I want them to live in a world where power does not mean silence. I want them to know their dad stood up, even when it was hard." He paused, wiping his eyes. "This is not about me. It is about every kid who is chasing a dream, every person who has been told to shut up or lose everything." As Will Smith stepped down from the stand, the courtroom erupted in chaos. Reporters rushed to file their stories, spectators whispered in disbelief, and Diddy's legal team scrambled to regroup. Fans who had idolized Diddy for decades were left looking puzzled. Was the bad boy empire built on something darker than music? Were the parties a facade for something sinister? And who else might step forward with their own stories? Will Smith's testimony was not just a moment in a trial, it was a crack in the foundation of an industry that thrives on secrets. His words have opened a door, and the world is watching to see what comes next. This case is far from over. As Diddy's trial continues, more voices may emerge, more truths may surface. Will others find the strength to speak? And what does this mean for the dreamers still chasing stardom in a world that demands so much? Subscribe to this channel for updates because more is on the way.